It's your call this hour on NATO's next move. The NATO allies, including the U.S., now find themselves battling a war on two fronts. From a military perspective, air attacks are escalating, and Pentagon officials say they're pleased with their results. But from a humanitarian front, the results are not so encouraging. Hundreds of thousands of refugees are without homes, and now there are fears that the Yugoslavian government may use ethnic Albanians as human shields against future airstrikes. We'd like to know this hour how you feel about these latest developments, whether your opinion has changed since the action first began over 2 weeks ago, and what you think NATO should do next. You can call us with your thoughts toll-free anytime in the next hour. Joining us once again is Mal Berisha, the Foreign Affairs Advisor to the Albanian American Civic League, who is also the former Consul General of the Republic of Albania. We are also joined once again by Adita Krunic, a member of the Serbian Unity Congress, which was formed by second and third generation Serbs to promote their heritage. We appreciate your time, as always, for being with us. Adita, I'd like to begin with you. There were massive airstrikes by NATO on Pristina on April.
And there doesn't seem to be an end in sight.
Mal Berisha, why do you believe these air attacks are a necessity?
Well, first of all, let me say that this bombing in the capital of Pristina, in the capital of Kosovë, came after a time when the city was absolutely ruined. So when the NATO attack started to drop bombs in Pristina, there are no people, because all the Albanians who made up the majority of people in the city left the city under the machine kills of Serbia. So there are no people when NATO started to bombing Pristina, and we know that the targets last night were the telecommunication system, in order to diminish the abilities of communication of the Serbian forces in the ground against the innocent Albanians and unarmed people.
You say that there are no people, and yet, Adita, we are seeing reports of injuries and
it's
casualties.
Actually not true. Pristina was a city divided. It was inhabited previously to this horrible act of bombing by Albanian citizens as well as Serbian citizens. The NATO, in fact, have bombed both Albanians, whom they're claiming.
There are no Albanians in the capital of Pristina. Probably there are some Serbians, but the city was emptied some, 3 or 4 days ago. And we know that the flux of refugees who passed the border to Albania and Macedonia were sent by trains, like in the Second World War, and probably they are being poisoned for 3 days without water and food in those camps, which were created in the border of Macedonia and Albania.
Well, in fact, the newspaper people and the reporters who were in Pristina yesterday reported that there were Albanian citizens there.
Let's go to the telephones and find out what some of our viewers have to say. Tom, thank you for joining us. It's your call.
Hi, Lynn. I was on the other evening when your two guests were on, and the representative there from Albania told me that these these things wouldn't happen. After I went off the air, he said he'd like to point out to the caller that these things wouldn't take place in America, but in fact they do, and they do quite often. I mean, there's Ruby Ridge, there's Waco, and a number of other things. But I was just watching the news, and an Albanian guy from the Civic League or something was saying that 600 years ago, during the Ottoman Empire, I'm an American, this really doesn't resonate with me. I mean, we could have the Mexicans, the Indians, the Spanish, the English, the French, and all saying the same things to us. There's 100,000 Albanians in Belgrade, to my understanding, and nothing's happening to these people. They're not being bothered with. 1/3 of the population of Macedonia, which somehow is connected with Serbia, nothing's happening to these people. I really don't see the case for the Albanians, other than the fact that they want to take land that now belongs to Serbia.
Well, let's give Mal Berisha an opportunity, perhaps, to explain the Albanian position. Thanks, Tom. We appreciate the call.
Yes, it is very interesting to see how people are going to trying to interpret the facts in Kosovo. Do you think that people are going to take lands when they are asking to open their schools, the hospitals? They have been stripped by these rights. So I am afraid that these, callers and Serbian community in the United States is also poisoned by the propaganda war of Serbia. And I would like to advise people to go to the next century, not to 6 centuries, behind in the history. If we'll go back 600 years and we'll see the people in the Middle Age killed each other, then we have no perspective. So we have, the problem is that Kosovo was populated by 90% of Albanians in 1999, and now it is almost ruined and deserted. So this is the problem. If NATO is the cause that people are leaving Kosovo, I'm going to ask the Serbian people, why the Serbs from Niš and Belgrade, who are the main targets of the NATO air strikes, didn't go to Austria, Hungary, or Romania to find out any shelter or to seek asylum, like Albanians are doing, coming down to Macedonia, Albania, or Montenegro.
And we will ask that question right after we take a short break, and we'll also ask you if your opinion of this military action has changed over the last 2 weeks. Have you become Thanks for joining us once again. We are continuing our discussion about the crisis ongoing in Kosovo. We're curious to know whether or not your opinion of this situation has changed as news reports have come from Kosovo. Do you now support the U.S. intervention and NATO intervention more so than ever before, or do you think that this is still a situation that America should not be involved in? If you'd like to join in our conversation, we'd like to hear from you. You can call us toll-free at any time in the next hour. Before we went to break, Mal Berisha raised a very good question, and that is why the Serbs, if they knew that there were going to be NATO attacks, did not try to leave the capital city of Kosovo.
You mean, why didn't they want to leave Pristina?
Yes.
They don't feel that there is a need to leave Pristina. It's their home. Where would they go? Into Serbia, which is also being bombed? I don't think there is any place for the Serbs to go. As a matter of fact, General Clark has said that there is no sanctuary in Serbia, and they keep making a point that these strikes are not against the Serbian people, that NATO has nothing against the Serbian people, when in fact, they're not destroying the Milosevic government. They're making him stronger than ever. People are behind him, people are united, and they are hurting the civilians, they are hurting the collateral infrastructure.
Do you feel that there is?
I think you misunderstood my question. I asked about the Serbians who are inside of Serbia, not Kosovo. Why they are not going to leave Serbia and to go to Hungary, Austria, Romania, or Bulgaria, which are, bordering Serbia, in order to escape by NATO attacks? Since Albanians are doing this, the same, going to Albania. So it means that the targets are not civilians. They are military targets and other facilities which are diminishing the force of criminal Milosevic and his staff, henchmen, to kill innocent people in Kosovo. This is the...
I apologize, I had my geography incorrect. Let's go back to the telephones. Blaney, thank you for waiting. Do you have a question or a comment for us?
Hi, Lynn. Yeah, I think the United States should just hang right on in there right now. They're in it knee-deep right now. And as far as ground troops, they most definitely going to have to start using ground troops because with the missile shortage and all that, they're running low on artillery, as they claim. So,
what kind of commitment do you think the United States should make? Should it stay in this military action until President Milosevic has been removed or the government destroyed?
Well, they're in it knee-deep right now. They're going to have to stay, stick it on out because there's no way in the world they can just pull right out now.
Has your opinion of the military action changed in the last 2 weeks? Were you always supportive of it?
Well, I'm not supportive of any war, really, because I don't agree with, anybody getting hurt or harmed. But if it had to be a war, it will be. But I'm not sure about that, man.
All right, Blaney, thank you. We appreciate the call. John, it's your call. Do you have a question or a comment for us?
How are you tonight?
I'm good, thank you.
I got a couple of comments on the long-range thing here. I think we're right in what we're doing. I think that in a unified Europe that is just unified under a new euro dollar, there is no room for a petty dictator. One dictator, one country can pull the entire economy of Europe down. Second, we have an awesome opportunity here to get to know the Muslim peoples of the world a little bit better than we have in our foreign policy in the past, especially by what we're doing as far as the refugees go. As far as the Serbians go, you know, you got a guy there that is, he's your president and everything like that, and he's got, you got people being killed over there. As human beings, it's your responsibility to stop him. We shouldn't have to stop him. We're stopping him because you didn't stop him.
You're saying the Serbians should stop their president?
Themselves, yes, should stop their own president when he goes off on these killing sprees, on these and making so many refugees. I mean, we have the film, we see the pictures, we have satellite photographs of where the mass graves are. We have satellite photographs of villages that have been burned. I mean, you can fly in the face of evidence all you want. There's more evidence against him than there was against O.J. Simpson.
I'd like to respond to that. The fact is, if you look at the history of the recent conflict in Yugoslavia, going back about 10 years ago, United States had plenty of opportunity to actually change the course of the government in Yugoslavia. In fact, they supported Milosevic up until recently, especially so because they needed him for the Dayton Peace Accord. They needed him to validate the Dayton Peace Accord. They needed him to sign the peace accord, and they needed him to execute the peace accord. So in effect, when the United States needed Milosevic, they supported him. 2 years ago, there were massive demonstrations in Belgrade. The students and then the workers and the intellectuals of Belgrade and other cities came out on the streets protesting the Milosevic government. This country did not get involved. They did not give any type of support to the demonstrators. This was the time to get involved if we wanted to get rid of Milosevic by a peaceful way, by peaceful means. Okay. But in fact, they didn't, because they needed Milosevic for their purpose. Once Milosevic refused to negotiate on their terms, they turned against him and have now equated him with Hitler and all kinds of other horrible names, which I think are saying that this government, this Clinton administration, does not have long-range terms.
Well, you know, I think that United States governments try to help the opposition parties in Serbia in 1996, when thousands and thousands of Serbians poured in the street of Belgrade in order to correct the decision of Milosevic, who crossed out the right of 14 mayors of 40 municipalities who were elected by the free votes. And in that time, I remember that the United States tried to deal with B-92 radio in order to inform people about the standard of democracy, which are absolutely violated. Milosevic was really a person who, you know, signed an agreement in Dayton, which is called the Dayton Accord. But I think the United States and all the international fora was fed up with him, since, you know, going step by step from Slovenia to Croatia, from Croatia to Bosnia, and now to Kosovo. And, you know, they cannot tolerate anymore. This is the problem.
Let's find out what our viewers have to say. Do you think Paul frustrated as the days turn into weeks and now the weeks turn into months?
Yes.
Why is NATO continuing to bomb innocent individuals and causing so much collateral damage?
Yes, in NATO, of course, you know, they accepted the mistakes they made to the Chinese embassy. They apologized 4 times, or more than 4 times. And of course, no one in this country wants to see civilians being killed in this war in Serbia, including me. But we have to go back and to see who caused this conflict. And I would like to present tonight in this television a diary of a 14-year-old girl